Walk into any American city. You'll see them. Towering libraries with gold-plated names, five-star hotels dripping in luxury, magazine empires, Ivy League dormitories where future presidents sleep, Roosevelt, Astor, Forbes, Yale, Harvard. These aren't just brands. They're American royalty, the families that built this nation, the institutions that shaped our leaders, respected, celebrated, untouchable. But there's something they never told you, something so dark, so carefully buried that most Americans will die never knowing the truth. These empires weren't built on innovation or hard work. They were built on poison, industrial-scale drug trafficking, opium by the ton flooding into China. Millions became addicts, millions died, and American families got 400% profit margins. Then came the genius part. They spent the next 200 years erasing every trace, rewrote the history books, built universities with the blood money, donated to museums, made sure your children would never ask where the money came from. But here's what they couldn't destroy. Shipping manifests locked in archives, personal letters between drug lords, account ledgers recording every ounce of opium sold. The evidence exists. And it's about to shatter everything you thought you knew, because the families you were taught to worship made their fortunes doing exactly what we throw people in prison for today. The difference? They did it to 300 million people, destroyed an entire civilization, got so obscenely rich they could buy their way out of history. This is the story they prayed would stay buried forever. The drug cartels that became American aristocracy, and how they've hidden it for 2 centuries. Everything you learned about American greatness, it's about to collapse. Stay with me. Early 1800s, Britain's got a problem. They're buying massive amounts of tea, silk, and porcelain from China, but China doesn't want British goods, nothing. So Britain's bleeding silver, reserves draining fast. They desperately need something to sell to China, something Chinese people will buy in massive quantities. They found it. Opium, grown in British-controlled India, refined into smokable form, smuggled into China where it's completely illegal. Chinese government banned it. They knew it was poison. British and American traders didn't care. The profit was insane. Buy opium in India for $100. Smuggle it to China. Sell for $500. 4 to 5 times your investment. Per voyage. Yes, the risk was high. Chinese authorities executed smugglers on the spot. But when you're looking at 400% returns, risk becomes negotiable. American families wanted in. Their advantage? Speed clipper ships, fastest vessels on water, built to outrun Chinese patrols. Here's how it worked. American captains sail to British India, load thousands of pounds of opium, race to Chinese coast, drop anchor offshore at secret locations. Chinese middlemen row out in darkness, exchange opium for silver. American ships never enter Chinese ports. Perfect deniability. Mountains of silver flow back to Boston, New York, Connecticut. This continues for decades. Millions of Chinese become addicted. Their economy collapses. And in America, the families getting rich transform into respectable aristocrats. Let's expose who they were. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Mount Rushmore, the president who saved America from the Great Depression, led the free world through World War II. American hero. Here's what they don't teach you. His fortune came from drug money. Warren Delano II, FDR's grandfather. At 19, he sailed to China. By 24, he was a partner at Russell & Company, the largest American opium operation in China. Not just participating, dominating. Russell & Company controlled the American opium trade, offices in Canton, fleet of clipper ships, direct connections to British opium suppliers in India. Warren Delano ran this empire from 1833 to 1846. 13 years of industrial-scale drug smuggling. Returned to America obscenely wealthy. Built a 40-room mansion in New York. When he lost money in 1857, sailed back to China, made another fortune in opium. Returned even richer. His daughter Sarah married James Roosevelt. Their son? Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Everything FDR had. Private tutors, Harvard, political connections. All financed by Chinese opium silver. Now here's the sickest part. 1935, FDR's president. He signs America's strictest drug control laws. The man whose grandfather made millions poisoning Chinese people spent his presidency criminalizing drugs for Americans. The irony is suffocating. If your mind is already spinning, hit subscribe right now, because there are 4 more families we need to expose. And YouTube doesn't want you seeing this. They want you watching product reviews and celebrity drama, not the truth about who built America. Subscribe. Turn on notifications. Don't let this get buried again. John Jacob Astor. Richest man in America. The Waldorf Astoria. His legacy. Libraries and museums across New York bearing his name. You've been taught he made his fortune trading furs. Partially true. But that's not where the real money came from. Opium. Astor's ships sailed to China starting in 1800. His ship, the Macedonian, made regular opium runs. He traded Turkish opium for Chinese silver, then used that silver to buy furs, tea, and silk. The opium trade made everything else profitable. By 1840, Astor was worth $20 million. That's $500 million today, most from opium. His great-grandson died on the Titanic as one of the wealthiest men alive. That wealth? Built on Chinese suffering. Every Astor building, every library, every museum wing, funded by drug trafficking. The Forbes family. Yes, that Forbes, Malcolm Forbes, the magazine billionaire. His family fortune started in China. Robert Bennett Forbes and John Murray Forbes were major opium traders. Worked with Russell and Company. Robert captained clipper ships carrying opium. John invested profits in railroads. Became one of Boston's wealthiest men. Their descendants launched Forbes magazine. All starting with opium. John Murray Forbes has statues in Boston, buildings named after him, celebrated as a visionary. The Opium Connection. Scrubbed from history. Samuel Russell founded Russell and Company in 1823. Dominated American opium trade. Made an enormous fortune. Retired to Connecticut. Then in 1832, his cousin William Huntington Russell co-founded something at Yale. Skull and Bones. The secret society that produces presidents, Supreme Court justices, CIA directors, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, John Kerry, all bonesmen. The Russell family fortune that established Yale's most powerful secret society came from flooding China with opium. Samuel Russell's money still funds the Russell Trust today, which finances Skull and Bones operations. The most influential secret society in America was built on Chinese addiction. Thomas Handasad Perkins, one of New England's wealthiest men, funded hospitals and schools. His money? Opium. Founded Perkins and Company. Ran opium from India to China for decades. Made millions. Retired to Boston as a respected philanthropist. Yale's Perkins Fellowship, named after his family, funded by opium. The Perkins School for the Blind? Same source. Nobody mentions where the money came from. The Cabot family, Boston Brahmins. Old money. Their wealth? Opium trading in China. Cabot House at Harvard. Streets named Cabot. The Opium Connection. Vanished. This is the pattern. American families sail to China. Join opium firms. Make massive fortunes. Return to America. Invest in legitimate businesses. Fund universities and museums. Erase the drug connection. Their descendants become American royalty. By the 1830s, 10 to 12 million Chinese were addicted to opium. 10% of all adult males. Addiction crippled the economy. Silver flooding out to pay for drugs. China tried stopping it. 1839. Commissioner Lin Zexu confiscated and destroyed 1,000 tons of British opium. Britain's response. War. First Opium War, 1839 to 1842. Britain wins. Forces China to pay reparations. Open ports. Cede Hong Kong. The treaty doesn't legalize opium, but makes enforcement impossible. Trade expands. American firms benefit enormously. During the war, British firms can't operate. American companies like Russell and Company take over. After the war, both British and American smuggling resumes at higher levels. Second Opium War, 1856 to 1860, same story. China tries stopping trade. Britain and France attack. Force China to legalize opium. American firms profit massively. The human cost? Catastrophic. Millions addicted, families destroyed, economy wrecked. But in Boston and New York, American families building mansions and founding universities. Here's the part that should enrage you. The same families that made fortunes selling opium, then criminalized drugs for everyone else. Early 1900s, America leads the movement to ban opium. The Hague Opium Convention 1912. Harrison Narcotics Act 1914. America pushes global drug prohibition. Why? Because American elites already made their money. Chinese immigration meant opium dens opening in American cities. Elites didn't want competition, didn't want American workers getting addicted, and certainly didn't want anyone connecting their fortunes to drugs. So they criminalized it, painted opium users as criminals, buried how their families marketed the same drug to China. Franklin Roosevelt, whose grandfather made millions in opium, signed the toughest drug laws in history. The families that got rich from drugs spent the 20th century imprisoning people for drugs. The hypocrisy is breathtaking. The history's been whitewashed. Most Americans have no idea the Delano, Astor, Forbes, and Russell families made fortunes in opium. Visit the FDR Presidential Library. Delano Opium Connection gets one small exhibit. Downplayed as trade with China. Astor family history? Opium barely mentioned. Forbes family? All about railroads and magazines? Not opium. Yale mentions Samuel Russell as benefactor. Opium business not mentioned. Harvard's Cabot House? Their opium trading not in official history. The whitewashing was systematic. These families used wealth to rewrite history. Donated to universities with conditions, certain facts omitted. Controlled narratives through foundations. Made sure descendants never knew the truth. But evidence exists. Shipping records, letters, account books in archives. Researchers documented it. Books written. The proof is there. Just not taught in schools, not in museums. Average Americans have no idea. The families want it that way, because if people knew, it would destroy their reputations, raise uncomfortable questions. If the Delano family got rich poisoning China, how is FDR a hero? If Forbes built their empire on opium, why do we celebrate them? If Skull and Bones was funded by drug money, what does that say about American elite institutions?
If this opened your eyes, do two things right now. First, subscribe. Second, share this video, because these families still have power, still have influence. They don't want this spreading, but truth doesn't need permission. Roosevelt, Astor, Forbes, Yale, Harvard, all built on Chinese suffering, all funded by opium, all hiding behind carefully constructed lies. For 200 years they got away with it. Not anymore. The shipping records exist. The evidence is undeniable. Subscribe and share. Let's make sure this never gets buried again.